Thank you very much, Jen. I'm Nicole Chappelle. I'm the mayor of Easthampton, Massachusetts. And today, we're going from the executive branch of government to the legislative branch. I have City Council President Peg Conniff to walk us through what's happening with City Council, what we can expect going forward from the overall council and certain projects that people have been asking for. Welcome, Madam President.
Thank you, Mayor.
And I know you have we went over the agenda earlier today, and we have a lot to look forward. So I'm going to actually start this off with a funny question for you, Madam President.
Okay.
Ready?
Yes.
Drum roll. Okay. What is the first rock and roll live concert you ever went to?
Elton John.
Wow.
Elton John. In 1979.
That's in my top 3 answers. Great. So if you could now just take the stage, and I'll remind people that you can ask questions, and Jen will prompt us through that. Take it away, Madam President.
Thank you, Mayor. So I appreciate the time today to walk through some things that I think I wanted to just kind of clarify, bring some light to, and then talk a little bit about some of the things we've been working on. One of the things that I really wanted to talk about today was just the general running of the City Council meetings. I think there has been a great increase in attendance at those, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure everyone understands how they operate and the various sections of the meeting. So I just wanted to very briefly kind of go through that so that people who are maybe new to attending them can understand and set their expectations for how things go. And one of the areas that I want to be clear about is that our meetings are very much set by state law, open meeting laws, the city charter, and our own city council rules. So there's a lot of things that come into play as to how we orchestrate those meetings, and some things we cannot change and some things we can. One of the things that we can't change is public speak. And so as we start our meetings, the first thing we always allow is the public to speak. And that section is really just for anyone to come up and say really anything they want to say to the council, and they direct their comments to the council, and it can be really anything. And the caution there is that we are not able to engage. So we can listen, but we can't ask questions, and you, the public, can't really ask us questions either. And the reason for that is really around open meetings. So the transparency of government requires that the public know what we're going to talk about. And that's what goes on to the agenda. If we started to talk about something that just somebody randomly brought up at the beginning of the call or the meeting, it doesn't afford maybe 150 other people who wanted to know about that thing the opportunity to speak to it because we didn't know we were going to talk about it. So that's the reason we just kind of allow people to speak. We thank them. And it informs us very often on how we're going to take action going forward. So public speak is really important. And we limit it to about 3 minutes so that it's fair and we don't have somebody up there for an hour and somebody else up there for 30 seconds. So we try to limit it to 3 minutes. And we try to get people to, identify themselves, but with Zoom, it gets a little more dicey. So we're doing the best we can on that because a lot of people don't want to put their name on Zoom and things. But generally, we like to know who you are and where you live. So that's what public speak is. I have notes because I'm old and I can't remember everything. The other thing you'll find on the agenda occasionally is a public hearing, and that comes at 6:15. If we happen to have one. We don't always have one, but if we happen to have one, they'll be on the agenda at 6:15. Again, kind of open meeting rules, state law, if you set a public hearing, You have to start it when you say you're going to start it. So if we have a really long public speak, so a lot of people want to speak, we will have to suspend the public speak until the public hearing ends. So at 6:15, we would have to start the public hearing and then resume public speak after that. So that is kind of a bummer. If there's a lot of people who want to say something, they may have to hang on until after the public hearing. Public hearings are held for things like appropriations, ordinances, and it's during those public hearings that the public does have an opportunity to comment. We have the opportunity to engage and ask questions of each other and the person presenting. So that is really an opportunity for the public to actually engage on a specific topic. And I know we often have a lot of things that are fairly emotional, and that would be a time that we could speak to that. So that's the difference between public speak and public hearings. Let me see. The other thing I wanted to talk about really quickly, and I hope this doesn't get to, I will get to a couple of things that we're working on, but one of the other things that I think creates some confusion is the introduction of new business and the ability also to speak on that. So when business is introduced for the very first time, it's generally on our agenda all the way at the bottom of the agenda. And the new business, again, because of the way, kind of parliamentary rules work, the first time you introduce something, you don't engage in a discussion. You move it to a committee, or you don't move it to a committee if we don't approve to do that. But once, so you will often find that at some of the new business items, we don't get into a lot of discussion about, we literally just move it to the committees. And the committee is where all the work is really done. And there is probably a greater opportunity for the public to engage in the committee meetings and to really understand the nuts and bolts of a specific item, because that's where we do our work. And that's where the debate is. That's where we really try to understand. We have the principal players at the table all throughout the city. We have finance, we have the auditor, we have planning, we have a lot of players that attend. And that's where a lot of the work is done. So I encourage people, if there's an item that you see and it's on the agenda for a committee, please go, because you'll learn a lot. And the outcome from committees is really a recommendation to the full council. It's non-binding. It's really saying, we've done all this work, we've looked at everything, and this is our recommendation back to the council. The council may still not vote in favor of it. Again, it's non-binding. It's only a recommendation. So that's why it's really important for you to show up at the committee to influence the recommendation one way or the other as best you can. Once it then comes back and we're about to vote on it, that's where, when you're in public speak, that's where really your commentary is really important. Because if we're going to vote on something that night, hearing what you have to say at that meeting can be very influential. Which is not to say that we don't a lot of times have our minds kind of in one direction, but certainly the public can absolutely make some influence when we are voting on something. So that's kind of the work that we do and kind of the process that we go through from a meeting perspective. Honestly, the city council meetings are the culmination of a lot of work that has happened before we ever get to the meeting. So the meeting sometimes is very dull, sometimes less dull, but generally it's kind of the culmination of a lot of work. So leading up to that is really where we get a lot of our work done. So again, I encourage you to go to committee meetings as well as the council. So I want to just segue now. So that's kind of
before you segue,
process. I was just going to ask if there were questions.
Yes.
Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so so when we get the agenda and we look at what's going, and it's broken up to subcommittee reports and whatnot, sometimes we're jumping around. Like I lose track of like a public hearing, and then that's finance, and then we're in the finance subcommittee. I was, how does that work? Or when should we expect that to happen?
So moving through the agenda, you mean, how does that flow work? Or
Yeah.
moving from a public hearing?
Right, how that flow. I mean, sometimes you take things out of the exact order on the agenda, and it's hard to follow.
And that's done on purpose. No. So
That's an I statement. It's hard for me to I'm like, wait, where are we?
So generally, when you're in the public hearing, that is certainly something that is currently in committee. So you'll see it probably also under one of the committees.
Got it.
But when we vote on it in public hearing, it's voted on. So when we move then ultimately to say it was a finance appropriation and we've approved it, and now we're going to the finance committee report, which is what happens, all the committees report out on what they've been working on.
Yes.
We will just mention that, we had the public hearing, we voted on it, and they'll move on to some of the other things on the agenda. What you'll see also under the committees is that's their active agenda right now.
Okay.
In their meetings, they may not get to all of those things, but they will provide a report on what they have gotten to. Does that make sense?
No, it does. So when we hear that or we see something in finance or public safety, and it's just a report out, the expectation would be there'll be more work and discussion in that subcommittee meeting.
Correct. If we're not voting on it that night and we're just saying, hey, we had a meeting, we made a lot of progress, we're going to keep meeting, then that's really the report. Great.
So then the subcommittees are the working meeting. And when the importance of public speak and public hearing, if you cannot attend that actual hearing, submitting written testimony, how can people do that? And does it really have an effect?
There have been occasions where, yes, people have written letters, people have written emails, and the passion around it, absolutely, especially if there is something that involves property or something, that impacts other people. Absolutely. We want all of those letters and we want them written in and read into the record. And they're really important. So that is also another opportunity for public speak, is to email us and we will get it into the record.
And the second to last question, to present that written testimony or a petition, would it have more effect, or is it okay to submit that to the subcommittee that's taking up the matter before going to council, or is council more appropriate?
So just want to make sure I understand. So if you as a resident wanted to make a comment about a topic, yay or nay, you could certainly, going to the committee before a recommendation is made is really powerful. And we've had a couple of instances where, because of the attendance by the public and things that were brought up that we didn't even consider, really influence us to go in a different direction. So it's very important. I think committees are probably the most important place to have your voice heard. Okay.
And then the last question, there's been a lot of conversation between my office and the city council about re-examining the city's budget for 2021. And I was just wondering if there's been any thought about how that would be structured by the city council or when. I know we still have some financial stuff still up in the air.
So the way the finance committee envisions it, and I am on the finance committee, and the way we envision it is kind of an ongoing iterative month-end process as a checkpoint sometimes to see where we are with the budget for the public, and having the auditor there. We just did it the other night, last night, I think, for 2020. And so the way I think we were thinking about it is having it as a standing agenda item. And so that way we could always talk about it if we needed to. If we didn't need to, that's fine, but we'll keep it as a standing agenda item. And as things come up and as as reports are done monthly or quarterly, we can review them and kind of have a sense as to how we're doing given the COVID environment.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, Jen?
We have a question from one of the participants, Louise Jacob. Would you like to unmute yourself? Or I'll try to unmute you.
Hi, Louise.
Hi. Back on, yeah. Okay, my question is about minutes, and I'm not familiar with what the procedures were pre-COVID because I couldn't really access it, so I've been getting to see a lot of city meetings. For me, it's worked out great to Zoom. But anyway, that's just a personal comment and background. Most of the minutes, and I just scrolled quickly because I thought maybe it was me, for the last 3 months are missing. There's a sprinkling, and this goes back to June 1st, so it's certainly not a question of the committee having to meet, a month later and accept them before they're published. I don't know if that's the reason. But most of my question is if there's a committee I'm interested in or any resident, how can you see them? Should they be published? And again, I just did a really fast scroll over it, but I went back 6 pages and most of them are missing.
Right. So I can speak to the city council minutes. Certainly every committee in the city is bound by open meeting rules, and there are parameters around how quickly you should get minutes out. And I believe it is within the next 3, by the 3rd meeting after the meeting that you are taking minutes for. Now, if you are on a committee that doesn't meet but once a quarter, technically, that could really be a long time. I think there's been kind of a confluence of a perfect storm of events for city council in that some of the committees haven't met very often. Some have had such intense conversations and have been so very long. It's taking us quite a while to get the minutes created because but many people have jobs. And so that's been a struggle, especially with COVID. But we are working to escalate that and get that taken care of because I'm a big fan of minutes because I think you shouldn't have to sit through a 2-hour meeting to get the high level points. So we're working on that. And Louise, they only go on the website once the committee has approved them. So they have to come out, and then the next time we meet, if they're ready, we will approve them. And then once they are approved, they go to the city clerk and then they get updated to the website. So there's just been a lot of, not a lot of time in the last couple of months. So not a great answer, but it is the reality that everybody's kind of been overwhelmed. We have just on the city council passed a new city council rule for minutes that we're gonna, because before it was we haven't done a good job, let me put it that way. And since becoming president in January, it was really important to me that we shore that up a little bit. And we literally just approved it, I wanna say 2 weeks ago, where we're now gonna make ourselves accountable to adhering to even a tighter and stricter timeframe than open meeting rules. So we really are trying to get better at that, Louise. And I can't speak to the rest of the committees, but city council has definitely been a problem, and we're trying to shore that up a little bit.
Thank you, Pat. Just adding quickly, if there's something conservation or something I think I might be interested in, it'd be kind of nice to be able to see the last few meetings, the minutes, and get a feel before attending. And I'm just wondering if your influence, if the committees report to you or report to the council, and the mayor has just encouraged us, so that's where the action is. Can I back your efforts and ask you to increase it?
Yeah. We just changed our Zoom accounts so they automatically record the public meetings like conservation. So the videos, and I think that actually just happened in the last week. So the video will be, and Lindsay and Zoe are taking lead from the city council to say, hey, we need minutes. And Barbara in the past too has said, it's important that there need to be minutes, but we did make it automatic. So the chairs of the committee didn't have to think about pressing record. So, and then we get the video and up it goes. So I'm hoping in the next week that gets better.
And I will also say that, when you're in the throes of the meeting, it's really hard to take minutes. So a lot of us watch the video again and take the minutes.
Yep. Done that myself.
Like going through a 2-hour meeting twice. And I've also kind of been educating some of the counselors, because some of the minutes I was seeing were virtual transcriptions of the meeting, which is not what we need to have. Right. We need to have key votes, key players, and what is the issue we're talking about, and that's it. And I think people were like writing down, and then Peg sneezed, and then they said this, and we don't need to go into that detail. And that was taking a long time. And so I'm kind of slowly getting them around to understanding that they need to be much briefer. So, and I see Councilor Gomez has given me a thumbs up on that.
I saw that. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise.
Here, I'll give a thumbs up.
Okay. Anything else, Jen?
I don't see anyone. If anyone wants to unmute yourself and ask questions, feel free.
Okay. I wanted to just talk about two things that we have on our calendar, our legislative calendar right now, that are, I think, kind of right up front of what we're working on right now. So there's two things. So one is charter review. And a lot of you will remember the charter being our city constitution. And a lot of you will remember that last year we established a charter review committee. And that committee spent a year going over our charter and determining and developing changes based on some outdated logic and some confusion in the way the wording was, or just out and out, we don't need that anymore. So so they did a lot of work over the year, and some of that work resulted in the vote for the ranked choice voting last biennial election last fall. So some of that was that. And then there was a whole host of remaining work that they deferred to now. And what the Rules and Government Relations Committee is now going through is that all those changes that they had and all of the changes that that they've, like commas and just an amazing array of changes to the charter. We're going through that now page by page. And the exercise now will be, once we get it to a place that we're all very comfortable with, we'll bring it to the council. We will vote on thumbs up, thumbs down, and it goes to the mayor. And then the mayor will determine if she's thumbs up or thumbs down. If it passes, then it has to go to the legislature to be approved. And then there are some things, then it will have to go to the voters to also be approved. So there's a lot of steps we still yet have to do for some of these things. We are still hoping to get it on the ballot for November. We have a lot to do, and a lot for the lawyers have already looked at it and had some changes. So we're going through that work right now in the Rules and Government Relations Committee, and we're very close to it being introduced at council. So that's something to keep an eye on and to pay attention to. On what we're doing there. The ordinance, and then some of you it's been in the paper, Tom Peake, Councillor Peake, introduced last meeting a review of the ordinances in the city to identify if there is any bias built into those ordinances, or if they are vague enough that bias could end up being the result of enforcing them. And so, again, that's part of our charter, that we do this. Just never have. So, so per charter, we're going to establish an ordinance review committee. We don't know yet what that will look like because we haven't discussed it in committee. I believe tonight we have a meeting, so we'll be starting to discuss it tonight. We'll be figuring out how many people need to be on it, who. Do we need to have city councilors? Do we need to have a lawyer? Do we need how many people from the community? So all those decisions have yet to be made. And that's really an exciting thing that is on our agenda, because that really has the potential for having real change happen for those who feel that they've been marginalized by some of our ordinances. So looking forward to seeing what comes of it. We could also find out that there is nothing. So we'll find out, but it's a good exercise to go through. So that'll be starting probably in the next couple of months, I would say. And those are really the highlights of what we have going on. We have some other things, there is I was going to start ticking them off, and then I'm like, that could open up a whole Pandora's box. But we have other things that we're working on that are on the agenda, and there's just nothing that's imminent right now that we'll be voting on. Yes, Jen Ramsey.
We have a question from Peter Marks, and I've heard this question a couple times on Facebook. Can we please have hyperlinks on the posted meeting memos for every city meeting so that it's basically easier to join? I've noticed that the agendas get posted as PDF and the links aren't clickable.
Right.
Many of the links, so I have had no problem in going to city meetings where there's a PDF and clicking on it. They work. The one that really doesn't work is school committee. I don't know why. I think they do something a little bit different. And we're actually looking into what they do that's different. But yeah, we need to do better on that, and to make sure that folks can get in. And, I think we were all under the impression that with a PDF, you can click on it because that's how I get into some of the meetings. But I'm not sure if it depends on your laptop, the way whatever your browser is. It could have a lot of variation. So we'll definitely look into that and try to do better. Thanks.
Yeah, to add, I'm not going to go too technical, but for what I understand, when you're posting that agenda and to a PDF, if you flatten or compress that document, it makes everything just go to text. And maybe that's our software or the school committee has others. So we're working on consistency with Ashley to get that. If push comes to shove, and maybe we do this anyways, when you go to agenda in minutes, maybe we make that that page, and however it's like school committee, and then there's just a link, and then a separate tab for agenda, because our website is basically a series of PDFs.
Right.
Yeah. So it looks like Pratt Ruff is giving us money. That's great. We need it. But yeah, I don't know what Wayne, I don't know where Wayne came from. Oh, I do know where Wayne came from. But we have a small working group on website and that kind of technology and getting it up, but the quick fixes. So, we might just have to add another field that has links.
Yep.
So
that was good, Mayor, that you were able to differentiate between flattening a PDF and not flattening a PDF. That was impressive.
And that's the end of it. That's done.
Tapped out.
Done. And I saw Luis quickly said, there are differences between what is paid for Adobe and what is not, the differences between, and I gotta believe that on our side we need to get the right version and get that up. So anything else, Councilor Carna?
Nothing for me. Jen, is there any more questions?
I don't see any. If anyone wants to ask questions, feel free to shout them out or say them in the chat.
I have a question.
Yep.
All right. So if I'm a member of the public, and I really want to hear or know something, like say, I'm wondering about a budget line item, or I'm wondering about a particular resolution or something I want to get to City Council and on the public agenda, how do I do that?
There's a lot of different avenues. You could certainly, you can always send me an email. And I can parse it out and get it to the right players if it's not city council. So always happy to take emails, and I have, and those turn into requests that we formally get onto the agenda. So sometimes we will have people who talk to us and say, this is a thing that I think the city it would be a benefit if we did this thing. Then one of us from the city council will write it up and we present it, and that's how it gets on the agenda.
Nice. I'm now in the chat because I keep saying, I like Pat's idea.
He wants a separate page for just Zoom links, or a separate piece of the website that just shows Zoom links instead of videos and agendas.
I mean, we could just brainstorming right here. I mean, we could just take the links from the master Zoom schedule and put them up with the title of what they are.
Yeah. I mean, we have, next to each meeting, you have video minutes. Could we add another one that says Zoom?
A button?
Yeah.
We could do that. And then you can pick which one you're going.
Yep.
But I've already put
Thanks, Pat.
a note in my notebook to do that.
Yep.
So are there any other questions, Jen?
I don't see any. Well, you're reading the chat too, so.
Councilor Gomez.
I was just going to say, Councilor Gomez, you want to give us an update about what you're doing in your committees and as a councilor? Maybe some feedback on the work President Conniff is doing or not doing?
No, we're not doing an appraisal here, no.
I can do that if you guys want. But first, the question is, if anyone from the public or from our community want to contact or reach our councilors, how they can do it and where they can find that information.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to add that to the website, right? I didn't realize that your city emails aren't under your names.
Oh, they're not?
No?
Isn't it? I mean, the Nashwanik Pond, our names and emails and phone numbers are on there. So isn't the city
It's
council?
very inconsistent. We're going through page by page to see like who's on the committee, but it's not a hot link or next to it. It's like how you contact. It's not there, Omar. Yeah, you're right. I mean, and that's not a difficult thing to add. So
Go ahead, Omar.
Will that be all committees? Because I know just before COVID, there was one committee that specifically agreed that they would not have an email or phone number because the department that was responsible for that committee, I'm trying not to, was too busy, and they would be overwhelmed. So that meant it remained that, and this is just something that I'm interested in, and I happen to be, meet the chair of it in another way on Facebook. And so I was messaging her and saying, oh, when's the committee this month? I didn't know about the meetings and agenda stuff then. Much more, just resident, been here a few years, very interested in certain things that affected me. And that might change with Zoom, but there was resistance to any electronic access because the people involved. Anyway, I'm leaving it right there, but I'm saying if you do it for everybody, it would be wonderful and it would be a great change from what's happened in the past.
Yeah, Louise, on the
But there might be some
we have introduced a business item around giving, I think, Councilor Gomez, correct me if I'm wrong, giving a generic chair, COE or whatever they are, their own email address, because there is a certain level of hesitancy by, just general residents to give that out publicly on a website, their personal one. So we felt that, kind of to your point, Louise, that people need to be able to get to minimally the chair of these committees. And it can be pretty generic so that if the chair changes, the email stays the same. So, and that can be very consistent. So chair, and then the name of the committee at easthamptonma.gov. And that is what it's currently in committee. I actually don't know if it's my committee, if it's in rules and government, it's probably rules. So that's in committee, and that's something we're going to talk about and try and get done.
I can speak to the downside of having your phone number published. Somebody was upset with the Nashwanik Pond Committee several years back, and somebody went out and made signs and hung up all our phone numbers on every tree around the pond. So that's the downside to having your phone number listed on the public.
And really, that's not, you guys are volunteering. And
Yeah, I know.
And we, in order to make sure that we can continue to get people to volunteer, we don't want to make it scary or difficult. Be on these committees. So things should be kind of anonymous and chair whatever. And I think that's something we really need to get to, because it shouldn't be that hard to get a hold of these committees, Louise. I agree. Councilor Gomez, I feel like I'm running a city council meeting.
I feel the same, President Conant. Going back to the minutes, I have a question. So, and I have to admit it, I own a few minutes. But I'm working on it. I bring a few minutes to Barbara, and we have to approve it. I'm working on it. I'm getting there, but I have to admit it, I'm one of them. If anyone from the public, from our city, want to see the minutes, now the only way to see it is just online, or is any other way that we can see it?
So you mean, are there hard copies somewhere, or?
Yes. Is any hard copy? I'm sorry, but if anyone have issue dealing with computers and they cannot see it through the internet and they want to see a hard copy, is a way that they can have it?
I don't know. We'd have to ask Barb. I don't know. I mean, certainly, they're absolutely printable, but that's a very good question on whether they are stored in, the clerk's office for a certain amount of time. I don't actually know the answer to that.
I mean, the minutes of the standing city council meetings are stored electronically and can be printed out. And sent. The committees, Nashwanik and whatnot, it's hit or maybe they're all there, but I mean, I don't know about all the standing committees. They're supposed to take meeting minutes and video. I don't know, Elaine, what now?
But they're emailed in, so they're not physical copies. They're emailed.
Yeah, I think Councilor Gomez was looking for, is there a place to get a hard copy from the city clerk if you are unable to access a computer?
I'm sure she'd print them out. We have an awesome city clerk, so I'm sure either one of them.
Maybe not right at this minute, because we've got a couple of elections coming up. But I'm certain that she would print them. Right. But you would still have to either call her or go there. It is somewhat of a barrier.
I mean, she could. It's a public record request when it comes down to it. Mm-hmm. So it's an email to Barbara directly, or city clerk, or public records at easthamptonma.gov, or a phone call. Like, we get in the mayor's office, and I'm sure Barbara does, FOIA requests, right? And I think that people are like, FOIA requests, but we log when somebody asks us for something and it's on, like, say, the website, we log what that is. The public has a right to know what the public is asking for, and it also it keeps government accountable that they're getting that information out within 10 minutes. And I think people think it's for, like, exposés, but minutes that folks cannot access on the internet for whatever reason, you just pick up a call. You can call any city department and say, I would like the minutes for planning, DPW, whatever. And you can, they'll be mailed. I mean, right now, especially, they'll be mailed out, and they should, unless the recipient or the person who asks for it wants it hand delivered. We mail them out all the time. We do that. And if for some reason, if it's the last year of those minutes, we can put it on a thumb drive. And we've done that as well, because folks don't have internet, but can access electronic files. But, for public record law, like we have to, when we want to, accommodate phone calls and emails, written requests. Like we'll get a note in the mail and it'll say, I would like, X, Y, and Z public records, and we have 10 days to respond to that and mail it back. Or they can say, could you put it in a thumb drive and mail it back? We all run out. It's one of the reasons why a stronger tent is going up, and we meet people in the parking lot to get things and to give them stuff. So yeah, it's pivoting.
Yeah, this conversation's being held everywhere too. Everybody's trying to make things more accessible. Louise had commented at the Dropbox last week. I met a gentleman who was trying to pay his water bill in cash, ESL, and he doesn't understand internet. So city needs to have some way to serve those kind of people too.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll just add what I was starting to say, that one possibility is to provide more guidance in the signs that are up, that I know they went up hastily and originally, this address is closed, but 3-5 months down the line, maybe start thinking of what people might be coming for, especially those who don't have internet, and providing them with guidance.
That's a great point.
Are the notes also, are they bilingual outside City Hall? Are they in English and Spanish?
I don't
If
think
they're a state notice, they are, but I don't think any of ours are.
Okay, might be something to look into.
All right, public records, cash.
We have a question from Peter Marks. He says, can you please help me understand why you released the memo about the closing school buildings on the eve of school committee meeting to vote on the school model for the start of school? This appears likely putting your thumb on the scale. I don't know if, Peter, you'd like to unmute yourself and elaborate, or or if you...
I'm fine to answer that question.
Yeah.
Yep, Peter's right. It was putting my thumb on the scale. For all the preparation, and it wasn't necessarily on the school committee or the superintendent, it was on the Department of Education. And I am so fed up with them. I don't think it matters what curriculum that you build. If your buildings aren't safe and you're not going to give us the money to make them safe and do that months in advance because contractors are now booked 6 months out, then nobody's going into public schools. They're public buildings, and as mayor and in the city, we own them, and I can't. So I'm not going to let somebody go into the Council on Aging because the air circulation is bad, and we don't know what COVID does in those things. But I'm going to let 1,500 kids plus the staff go into. I couldn't do it. I really feel it's unconscionable, and it's not as a protest to the state, but it's just it's a fact. It's an unfunded mandate. We are supposed to hit certain air circulation levels, like in White Brook last year, right? We had to do air quality testing and bring a lot of things up to standard. And it's the same thing. And no one can give us as local governments what those standards are, because everything is in flux, right? I mean, we didn't have to wear masks, now we do. There are different levels of filters, and no existing filters, like the levels. Are anybody sure that they address COVID-19? But then there are these ion, like purple UV ones, and maybe that does it. So right now the city has, we're very close to putting out a request for qualitative proposals of looking at every single public building, and bidding, doing some retrofitting to do a survey, to retrofit, I mean, if need be, a new HVAC, but right now, what we're hearing from other cities who have more resources, retrofitting with special kinds of filters and lights seem to be good. But yeah, so yes, thumb on the scale. It's a great way to put it. Yes.
I never heard that term before. I had to look it up.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Idioms.
Yeah, thumb on the scale of justice. It's a big legal term. Yeah, that happens way too much. But
I have a question about everybody's talking about mail-in ballots and returning them and how to get them and all that. Can you tell us a little bit about what the city's doing in terms of mail-in ballots?
So every registered voter should have gotten a postcard. And if you haven't, then you should call us or email us, depending on how you want to communicate, or put a note in the Dropbox saying, I didn't get a postcard to get my ballot by the mail. And it can say, and I'd like one. And we will mail one out. It's not a formal request. You can do it on the Secretary of State's website as well, requesting a ballot by mail. There are about 2 more weeks where you can get a ballot, and vote by mail. Also, I want to say August 28th, early voting starts, and we'll have voting in City Hall for early voting. And it'll be up at the City Hall chambers, and we'll make sure there's access to the elevator, right, for people to come in and vote. There'll be some Saturday voting, so the vote by mail, you can request it with your postcard. You can request it by phone. Give the city clerk's office a call. And you can get the information online. You can check if you're registered to vote. There will be early voting to avoid lines and kind of take some pressure off of our polling. If you vote by mail and you mail us, we check it in, and I think people are a little confused about this. But if you vote by mail, you cannot then walk into a polling location early voting or on election day and say, I changed my mind. I want to now vote in person. So when you mail in a ballot, it's like going to the polling place. It's done. The other thing, I know people have some, and we're building, it might be up now, we're building a bigger Dropbox, because we anticipate we got 4,000 so far, or the last time I checked, we had 4,000 requests for ballots by mail, and I'm sure that's going up. And so we're building a bigger Dropbox so people can put their ballots in. It's kind of a big envelope to make sure that there's room for that. And the last thing I'll say about it is the Secretary of State has a web page you can click on, and it will tell you the status of your voting by mail ballot. It will tell you, you put your name and your address, it'll tell you when it was received, when it was accepted, that it's official. So you can track your ballot, which I just found out the other day. It's awesome.
Just like tracking your mail online.
Yeah.
Very good. Pat Broff had suggested someone to post to the city Facebook page the text from a link that he sent to the city website. I think oftentimes with Facebook, if you post links, sometimes people don't click them. So he was asking for the text.
Yeah, right. So people don't click the link. No,
Oftentimes.
Yeah.
So just copy and paste the text. That's what he's asking.
Yes, and Barbara, I saw, okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, Barbara had posted today on several Easthampton pages, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Oops, I'm clicking on more. Thursday and Friday is early voting.
What day does it start? What is it?
Saturday, August 22nd, 2 to 4,
It's the
and
22nd.
6 to 8. Sunday, noon to 4. Monday, 9 to 5. Tuesday, August 25th, 9 to 5. Wednesday, August 26th, 9 to 6. Thursday,
Okay.
August 27th, 9 to 5. And Friday, August 28th, 9 to noon.
Okay.
And she also gave the link on several of the Easthampton pages,
Right.
so you can track your vote.
From voting link. Great. I mean, we can't share that and push that out enough, right? From voting link.
And the fact that you can also drop off your ballot is a big thing, and I'm surprised more cities don't do it. Like somebody asked me about it because I knew about Easthampton, and somebody asked me about Holyoke, and I've actually reached out to a friend in Holyoke and still, but I don't think they do in Holyoke. I'm like, how do we have one and they don't?
It's the home rule charter and the uniqueness of every municipality in the state. All
And a great-
351 of us.
And a great city clerk too, so that might have something to do with it.
Yes, yes, yes. Other questions? I have one question for Jen before we leave.
Sure.
So when this is over, and I know it's recorded and it'll go out, everything that's in the chat, is that saved? Because I've been on these and I forget to grab the link,
Yeah.
and I can't figure out how to do it. Don't laugh at me, Peg. So
Yeah, I believe I believe I have my Zoom account set to record the chat as well, but I don't post it anywhere, but I can certainly forward you it in email.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know if anybody else, and not just this one. There are like all these great links and like, oh, get a hold of this person, and then the meeting's over, and I'm paying attention to the meeting, and it's like, oh shoot, I forgot to grab that. So, just wondering.
I'll go back through and see if we have the chat logs from the past few ones and send them your way.
Great.
No problem.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you for everybody who is going to watch this. Madam President Conniff, thank you very much for weighing in and walking us through those things. Councilor Gomez, wonderful to see you always, and our frequent flyers, Louise and Elaine and Pat and Peter, thank you. If you have suggestions or things that you would like to see on this hour, please let us know. In the near future, once things are a little more settled, or as much as they can settle, we're going to be doing a presentation on the reopening plan for the school, but also an update on our new school project. We're 18% done, and we're looking to pave the roundabout in late August. So that's going to start soon. So we can give an update like on those things too. Please stay safe, and if you can, stay home. Cover your nose, cover your mouth, wash your hands a lot. And a friend of mine's, my friend's little kid, who's like 6 or 7, we were talking about what do you have to do, washing hands. He was really good. And then instead of saying, socially distance, he said special distance. So please keep your special distance, 6 feet, and save a life. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.